What is up, YouTube gang?
Hey,
Thank y'all for tuning
guys.
back into our channel. We appreciate y'all. Hope y'all about y'all New Year in well. Appreciate all the New Year's wishes. Hope y'all are doing great. We are heading into another Mr.Ballen reaction. A lot of y'all was asking like what happened. We be trying to sprinkle a whole bunch of stuff. You know, give y'all different type of reactions over here. But
Yes.
that last one we opened up with 2024 was wild. That was a wild one. But we're heading into another one, and this is a missing person. So pretty sure it's gonna be multiple stories because that's usually what he does. So let's dive in.
In December of 2014, a 24-year-old man named Aaron Frazier sat in the driver's seat of an excavator in the backyard of his childhood home in Jacksonville, Florida. He pushed a lever forward, and he watched as the metal bucket dipped down and cut into this big slab of concrete, and debris went flying everywhere, and Aaron loved it. He smiled with satisfaction watching this destruction taking place, and he pressed the lever again and ripped off another piece of concrete. Today, Aaron was ripping out the backyard swimming pool of his old home, a home which his father had recently given him the deed to. But this property was not a nostalgic place for Aaron. In fact, he hadn't lived here since he was 3 years old, and the handful of memories he had from being in this place were basically all bad. His parents fought all the time, and then one day in 1993, his mom just decided to leave, and then after she was gone, his dad wasn't able to care for him, and so before long, Aaron was shipped off to foster care. So now he was kind of enjoying demolishing the property. He had some big renovations planned, starting with the backyard. By early afternoon, the pool was all gone. And so Aaron swung his bucket over to the outdoor shower that was located next to where the pool had been, and he dug the bucket into the concrete, and as soon as he did, immediately this geyser of water shot into the sky. And so Aaron knew he must have hit a water line. And so Aaron jumped out of the excavator, he turned off the water, and then he grabbed a shovel and headed over to the outdoor shower to inspect the damage. He basically needed to dig where the excavator bucket had just begun digging to see what exactly had been struck. And so with the shovel, he starts kind of moving away the mud and concrete, and at some point, the head of his shovel, the blade, it hits something sort of rigid and plastic. And he moved the shovel out of the way and he looked, and at first, it looked like a plastic bag, but it was too rigid to be a plastic bag. And so he took a shovel and kind of moved the dirt out of the way, and he saw it was definitely not a plastic bag. It was thick plastic sheeting like you would use in major construction projects. Curious why the sheeting would be underneath this outdoor shower, Aaron used a shovel and basically pierced the plastic sheeting, and then he got down and peeled away the plastic with his bare hands. And as he did that, he began to notice that the sheeting was wrapped tightly around some sort of bulky object. And so he's pulling it away, and finally he reveals the object, and it's this old coconut. And so he actually reached down and pulled the coconut out and just stared at it, like, why is this under here? Aaron was really confused by this. Like, why would somebody take the time to wrap a coconut in waterproof industrial sheeting and then bury it? And so as Aaron just sort of stood there wondering what this could be, he began rotating this coconut around in his hands. And when he saw the back of this coconut, he screamed. It would turn out Aaron's mother did not just suddenly abandon the family.
Oh my God.
That went so fast.
And my brain didn't even process to think, mom. Like, I'm thinking like, oh, his dad probably was a murderer or something out here just putting bodies in the backyard.
Wow.
And he thought his mama disappeared. He probably had hate in his heart his whole life about his mom just leaving. This whole time, his daddy.
I knew it was a skull. I'm like, it's
Yeah,
a coconut.
it probably was hair, like the old hair. Like, and that's probably why he felt like.
I don't want to imagine that.
I was just trying to give you that detail.
No, I don't want to.
I don't want you to miss any details of this story.
Sorry.
Wow. This is about to be crazy.
On the night of January 6th, 1993, the day that she vanished, well, Aaron's mom and father got into this huge fight and got out of hand, and Aaron's father shot and killed Aaron's mother with a .22 caliber rifle. Aaron's father then staged the murder to look like Aaron's mother simply stormed out and never looked back. Now, when the police investigated her absence, they did not believe Aaron's father's story. They thought there was something off about it, but there wasn't enough hard evidence to actually connect him to the crime. And so nobody ever caught him. But that all changed in 2014 when a court ordered that the deed of Aaron's childhood home be transferred from his father to him. The coconut that Aaron found in the backyard of his home was his mother's skull. He just didn't realize it until he rotated it and saw her eye sockets. 5 years later, in 2019, Aaron's father was convicted of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison.
Oh.
You give your son a house, he gives you a sentence.
Dang. I wonder, did he tell, like, no, he couldn't have. I was thinking, like, I wonder, did he tell his dad, but they not closed, like, oh, we have to renovate it. Or, you know, he probably panicked, like, oh, no, like, don't.
Yeah, because he was in foster care.
Yeah. I wonder what made them dad still give him the house.
He probably forgot. Didn't think he'd renovate it or hit a line over there. You know, it was by a shower. He didn't think the shower would, you know.
Or did he think not nobody? What if somebody in general just wanted to remodel the home and dig some stuff up? You think like, oh, I buried her back there. He may have.
In case you didn't know, we just dropped our. In case you didn't know, we just dropped a sweater. Don't forget. Strange dark.
That was it.
Around lunchtime on August 25th, 2012, a young woman named Grace was standing in a public restroom in front of the mirror in southern Iceland, applying makeup. Someone knocked on the door, and Grace quickly shouted an apology, but then made no move to finish up. Grace was in the middle of a solo bus trip across Iceland, and she was feeling kind of gross from all the travel. Every day around noon, the tour bus she was on would make a pit stop for lunch at whatever touristy location was nearby. And today, they were at Eldkau, which is the largest volcanic canyon in the world. Now, usually, Grace would use these pit stops not just to get lunch, but also to walk around and see the sights. But today, she was using this break just to freshen up. So, Grace finished putting on her eyeliner and put her hair up in a high ponytail, and then she changed her shirt, stuffing her old one back into her backpack. Then she stepped out of the bathroom into a large parking lot, and she saw her tour bus on the other side, and she saw other tour members making their way on board. Grace hustled across the lot, got onto the bus, and settled back into her seat. Okay. Only a few minutes later, the driver stood up and announced to the bus that it was time to leave. But before they left, he did what he did at every single stop. He did a head count, just to make sure nobody got left behind. Now, typically, Grace did not pay much attention to the driver when he did this head count. It was a very administrative thing. She would just sit there looking out the window waiting for the bus to start. But on this day, at some point, as Grace was sitting there, she realized the head count was taking a really long time. And when she noticed that, she looked up at the driver, and he looked visibly upset. And he was clearly doing the head count over and over again, like he was really trying to make sure he was doing it right. And then finally, the driver just announced to Grace and all the other people on the bus that they couldn't go anywhere because somebody from their tour group was missing. Now, the first thing they did is they just sat there and waited for about an hour, just hoping that this missing person would turn up. Okay. But when they didn't, the driver called the police. So this area, Eldkau, is a sprawling canyon that was formed more than 1,000 years earlier during a volcanic eruption. The canyon itself is very deep, and it has steep walls on either side. And at the bottom is all this volcanic debris. So it's beautiful to look at, but it's pretty difficult to navigate. And so if somebody was exploring this area on their own and somehow got lost in the process, this could become a very dangerous place for them very quickly. So when the bus driver called the police to report a missing tour group member in this particular area, the police immediately sent out a search and rescue party. And when they arrived, the first thing they did was interview the remaining tour group members to try to figure out who the missing person actually was, because it wasn't clear yet. Pretty quickly, some of the tour group members recalled seeing this young woman of Asian descent who was wearing dark clothes and was carrying a light-colored bag, who had left the bus at the beginning of lunch and had not returned. Now, Grace had not personally seen this young woman, and she told police as much when she was interviewed. But she, like basically everybody else on the tour, immediately volunteered to help with the search. So, for the entire rest of the day, that is what Grace and the others all did. They searched for this missing person. Grace was teamed up with another member of the tour, as well as a trained rescuer, and they walked out into the canyon, searching along a grid pattern with the rest of the team. After a few hours with no luck, officials sent in more rescuers and a helicopter. And by the time the night fell, the entire canyon was lit up by searchlights, and you could barely hear anything over the sound of the helicopter making repeated passes overhead. But despite this enormous effort, there still was no sign of the missing tourist. Finally, at around 3 a.m., Grace broke off from the search and returned to the bus to get some sleep.
That's what I was thinking, because I'm like, if you just had enough time to go to the bathroom, wash up, and then go back in, like, I don't know.
Only thing I could think of, if she was in the water, then she floated. Of course, that's gonna take you somewhere. But I'm like, how far could in feet? Like,
I don't think she would have went all the way over there. Like, I don't know. That's weird.
Unless somebody on that dang bus did something, that's where I think we headed. Somebody on this bus guilty.
But before settling into her seat, Grace opened up her backpack to pull out some makeup wipes, and as she did that, something inside of her bag caught her eye. And when she
sweater.
saw it, she froze. She stared at this object, and as she
Sweater.
did, she felt herself break out in a cold sweat, because suddenly she knew exactly where this missing woman was.
What?
It would turn out that over the course of the previous day, the people on board the bus made a series of small mistakes, but together they snowballed and turned into one huge mistake. First, the bus driver had made a mistake with his head count. Not the head count he had done that afternoon, but the one he had done earlier that day, before they drove to Eldkjau. That morning, he had accidentally counted one too many people on board the bus and not realized it. Then, that afternoon, when he had counted again and actually had the right number of people on board, he thought there was a missing person. Next, the description of the woman who had gotten off the bus and didn't come back,
her.
the so-called missing person, that description had only been half correct. So yes, there had been a young woman of Asian descent wearing a dark sweatshirt, carrying a light-colored
washed up,
bag.
remember?
She had gotten off the bus, but she did get back on. Except that when she did, she looked different, and so nobody recognized her. And this
What?
was because this woman had gotten off the bus to go to the restroom to freshen up. She had put on makeup, she had put her hair up in a ponytail, and she had taken off her dark-colored sweatshirt. The object that Grace found in her backpack that
black
made her
sweatshirt.
realize that she knew exactly where this missing woman was her dark-colored sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Do you know how pissed off the rescue team, everybody gonna be?
You done postponed our trip.
You got the whole, everybody out here looking for you, and it's you this whole time.
But that's good on the driver.
Yeah,
He was very alert and
he
observant
was,
that he
but
knew.
they
yeah.
out there looking for nothing. This could
Dang, she looked that different.
but yeah, I mean, makeup did her some justice, cause that's crazy. But imagine she didn't find out. Like, this display, imagine she didn't find out it was her. Do you know how long of a search they would have been looking for somebody who didn't even exist?
Damn.
Inside of her light-colored backpack. And it was at that exact moment that Grace knew. The person that she had spent the last 15 hours searching for
It's terrible.
was herself.
At least nobody was hurting this one. No dead, no deaths, no nothing.
Right.
Like, at least we had a normal little thing.
Stay in the car.
Before dawn on December 12, 1992, a 17-year-old girl named Tracy Dion sat in the passenger seat of a little two-door car that was swerving down a deserted road in the Yankton Sioux Reservation in South Dakota. Everybody in the car was drunk, including Tracy.
Oh, God.
Sitting next to Tracy in the middle front seat was her 19-year-old cousin named Ruby, and Ruby's boyfriend, a 20-year-old named Arnold, was driving the car. All three of them had been out partying all night, and so now they were trying to make it home. The swerving was making Tracy feel sick to her stomach, but she didn't want to say anything to Arnold in fear that she might distract him. I mean, it was really dark outside, there was no street lights, there was ice on the road. I mean, for a sober driver, this would be a challenging drive, let alone a drunk driver. They were coming up on an intersection, and Arnold brought the car to a stop with a lurch. Tracy watched as Arnold checked for cross traffic and then pulled out onto Highway 281. But halfway through this turn, as Arnold was accelerating, Tracy began to feel the car slide. And even in her drunken state, she could tell Arnold had hit a patch of black ice. And so as the car began to skid, she wanted to scream, but before she could, the car was already flipping over, and then everything went black. A short time later, Tracy came to. The car was upside down, and Tracy quickly realized she had fallen out of her seat and was now basically resting on the roof of the car, which was now on the ground. From what she could tell, after the car had finished rolling over, it had come to a stop just off the side of the highway, and so they were not in immediate danger from other cars striking.
What?
I got a thought.
What?
The title, Stay in the Car. I feel like she gonna get out.
And get hit.
Nope. Edge of the cliff or something.
Oh yeah, that maybe.
Or you got that could get hit though. That could happen. But I was thinking like they on the edge or something, and she got out, and then that's my theory. That's where I'm rolling. Because why else would you stay in the car with the car flipped over?
You're hurt.
You're not gonna die from an injury getting out, unless it's something brutal. But
What if she can't move? Like her something stuck.
we'll see. We'll see.
Now, but she couldn't really see outside because the windows were so badly cracked. Beside her, Tracy could hear her cousin, Ruby, pounding on the driver's side door trying to get it to open. And so Tracy tried to look around Ruby to see Arnold, to see if he was okay. But when she did, she saw the driver's seat was empty. Tracy tried to make sense of what she was seeing. The driver's side door was closed, but Arnold was gone.
What?
Just then, Tracy heard the sound of the driver's side door opening, and she turned to see her cousin Ruby forcing the door open just a few inches, and then a second later, Ruby was slithering out through that crack to the outside. To Tracy, everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. She was too shocked and confused to make any sense of it. But if Ruby was getting out of the car, Tracy felt like she should too. And so Tracy turned and crawled across to the driver's side and was about to make an exit the same way Ruby had when the door slammed shut violently right in Tracy's face. Tracy didn't understand why Ruby would do something like that. Why would she shut the door that aggressively when she knew her cousin was still inside? Tracy tried to open the door again, but she was too weak to do it. She figured her cousin Ruby was okay, but she couldn't see outside because of how cracked the windows were.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going.
At this point, Tracy began to feel woozy. She laid her head down on the roof of the car, wondering to herself why Ruby and Arnold had left her behind. Tracy would stay trapped inside of the car, alone, for a few hours, until finally a motorist saw the flipped-over car and called 911. Shortly after that, first responders arrived on the scene. They pulled Tracy out of the car, and shockingly, she actually didn't have really any serious injuries at all.
Okay, so my theory was way off.
I'm snitching. Where y'all at?
Yeah, something
Y'all
off
left
then. I didn't
me.
expect this. I thought maybe they was on the edge or something. Like you said, maybe hit by a car when they got out. You know, I didn't think like.
This is weird.
Yeah, why y'all just gonna leave me in here? Didn't nobody come back to me, ask if I was okay, just left
Was
me?
she dreaming? Is it real? I don't know.
She didn't even need to be hospitalized. But rescuers could not find Ruby or Arnold anywhere. They were gone. And once rescuers had scoured the entire area around the crash site, the sheriff who was in charge of the scene started to wonder if Arnold and Ruby were not just missing. Maybe, he thought, they had fled. Arnold had been driving drunk, and all three of them were underage, and so the sheriff thought maybe Arnold and Ruby were scared to get in trouble. Over the next few days, the police continued to search the surrounding area for Arnold and Ruby, hoping they were not badly injured and that they would just turn up on their own, but they never did. And as the days turned into weeks, hope began to wane for the young couple. Their family and friends kept searching the area along 281 where the car had flipped, looking for any clue as to where these two had gone. But there was nothing. There was no trace of...
What if, I'm just...
I did a what if. Go ahead. What if it out there? Throw that what if.
In a sense, she stayed in the car, made her stay alive, and like, what if she felt like, oh, she went into her cousin Ruby left and she went to the light, type of vibe. No, am I reaching? You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You feel me where I'm going?
I see what you're saying.
I'm just saying,
I threw a wild one out there. Sometimes you just gotta throw that bone and see if somebody gonna catch it.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
It was like Arnold and Ruby had gotten out of the car and just vanished. But in January of 1993, so 3 weeks after the crash, strange and conflicting reports of sightings began to trickle in. First, a woman came forward claiming to have seen Arnold alive and well at a New Year's Eve party. Now, the police doubted this claim, but this woman was insistent that she had seen Arnold. And they actually hooked her up to a lie detector test, and she passed the test. And so officials brought in guests from this party who this woman claimed were with Arnold, and they asked them, "Were you with Arnold?" And they said no, but they failed their lie detector tests. Now, of course, this was suspicious, but police really didn't know what to do with this information.
Go find Arnold.
Assuming this woman's story was true, that she really did see Arnold, well, according to the details of her story, Arnold did not appear to be in any kind of distress. And even if he was in distress, the police still had no idea where he was, so how could they help him? Other locals came forward, claiming to have spotted Arnold around town as well. But nothing came of those reports either. Neither Arnold nor Ruby turned up. Months went by, and the case went cold. Until March 10th, when a driver was going down Highway 281, and they noticed a strange object in the drainage ditch next to the road. By now, the weather was much warmer than it had been on the day of the crash. So instead of snow and ice inside of this drainage ditch, it was runoff water, and the strange object was floating in it. The driver stopped his car, got out, and walked up to see what this thing was, and as soon as he saw it, he turned, ran back to his car, and called the police. Because what the driver had just found was a dead body. And when the police arrived and searched the area, they found another body not far away. The bodies belonged to Ruby and Arnold. But this discovery did not solve the mystery of what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe
if she's seen him though, and she passed the lie detector test.
Yeah, that's strange. But the door closed aggressively. So was there somebody else out there when they hopped out that car?
But they seen him 3 weeks later.
Did they? Now I'm questioning them. People can cheat that lie detector.
Or did he party again and ended up at the same spot? Because it's maybe a route.
Yeah, man, that's great. I didn't expect. I thought it was gonna be her body and maybe he did something. I didn't think both of them was gonna be there. Yeah, this story is. Yeah, I don't know where this one's going.
To Ruby and Arnold. Instead, it made it much more bizarre. Because first of all, the bodies were found 75 feet away from the original crash site. And the exact spots where the two bodies were found had been searched many, many times on the day of the crash, days after the crash. They were searched by police. They were searched by friends and family of Ruby and Arnold. The idea that this is where the bodies had been the whole time was impossible. They would have been found. And then there was the condition of the bodies. Ruby's body was extremely decomposed, which made sense given the fact that the crash was 3 months earlier. But Arnold's body was barely decomposed at all. And in the pocket of Arnold's jeans, police found a mysterious set of 3 keys. One was a vehicle key and 2 were house keys. But none of them opened any vehicle or building that Arnold was known to frequent, and nobody recognized them. Finally, the police found a tuft of hair lying near where the bodies had been found. It was Ruby's hair, but it didn't look like the hair had been there for very long, certainly not 3 months. Instead of being dirty and matted, like you would expect, given how long she must have been there, the hair was perfectly clean. The official coroner's report on Ruby and Arnold's deaths were that they died of exposure, and then their bodies were just overlooked by searchers for months. But to a lot of people, including the sheriff who was in charge of the original crash site, this made no sense. Despite the coroner's findings, law enforcement officials believed that Ruby and Arnold's deaths were the result of foul play. Under the foul play theory, somebody pulled Ruby and Arnold out of the crash site while they were still alive and then killed them later. And then perhaps they killed them at different times, which would account for the differences in decomposition of their bodies. The FBI ultimately came in and took over this case, but they eventually closed it down, citing a lack of evidence to support the foul play theory. However, with or without foul play being involved here, nobody has a good explanation for all those sightings of Arnold after the crash. And also, nobody can explain why the door was slammed in Tracy's face in the immediate aftermath of the crash. Maybe it was Ruby or Arnold who slammed the door, or maybe it was their killer. To this day, what actually happened on December 12th, 1992, on the side of Highway 281 remains a mystery.
What? We did all this for a mystery?
What if I have a little,
Well, I hope you got something, because I'm pissed.
What if, because all that happened, they're kind of probably so drunk, he probably, like, she was kind of running on adrenaline, and he probably left and went to his house, wherever the key was, and he kept her in there and was like, oh my gosh, she died, or she's dying, or something like that, and like she just decomposed. So he did go out, but when he realized that she was gone, he probably killed himself.
But none of those keys matched nothing he had.
They did. They said 2 houses and another car.
Yeah, but it didn't go to his stuff.
Well, he hit her.
No, see.
I don't know.
Man, I didn't want no freaking cliffhanger, like no mystery. The whole point of Mr.Ballen is to tell us that this person did, they found out that somebody came by. And you just go sit here and waste my time to tell me that this case is still unsolved.
I feel like there's so many scenarios.
There's so freaking pissed off. I thought we was getting somewhere. I'm like, oh yeah, we about to get somewhere. This is getting juicy. Just to say.
Well, in a sense, staying in the car saved her life.
Oh my God. This is like those movies you watch and it's a stupid ending.
Put it away.
I can't believe y'all, man.
Anyways.
Everybody else's case got solved. And we get to the last one. That should have been number 3, not number 1.
No, number 1 didn't really give us nothing.
It gave enough. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like this.
Let us know
really
what you
just
guys
pissed me
thought
off
in the comment section below.
See y'all in the next one.